Welcome to another episode of the TechNation show. As you can see, today we have a table full of drone equipment. We're in drone heaven. With me I have a couple of special guests who are drone gurus. Can we say drone gurus? Does it exist? If it doesn't exist, I just invented it. Patent. There you go.
Welcome to TechNation.
Funny, but sometimes mentally unstable.
We're going to talk about the considerations that you have to make when buying parts, which parts go together, where you need to invest money, and maybe when you can save. Is there a place where to save some money?
Of course.
So we'll give you some tips. And in this series, we're gonna go into detail about different parts. So we're gonna go through an episode about motors and propellers, motors and props, right? And then we're gonna go through batteries, through transmitters, and the all-important electronic speed controller combos and discharge rates and all this technical stuff, which will be very interesting to learn more about these behemoths. So, Nils, first question. What is a drone?
So a drone is a remote control aircraft. We also call them quadcopters or multicopter. And this is one of them. It has 4 propellers and it flies in the air. And we remote control them and it's a lot of fun.
But as I can see, this is like a special kind of breed of quadcopter. It's a racing one?
Yes, indeed. So this is the Alien. It's a racing quadcopter. It goes pretty fast and very agile.
Okay, so as we said, this is a special episode because we're going to focus not on any kind of drone. We're going to focus on FPV racing drones. Here we have an open one with Jesmond, which we're going to put together and explain what makes an FPV drone. This is a sport, Nils and Jesmond, which is taking off. If I can use the pun.
Oh yes, yes. Yeah, 2 years ago it didn't exist at all. We couldn't find anything related to it on the internet. And since a year we have been organizing ourselves very much so around the world. The first competitions with big prize money went off this year. The latest one in Dubai with $1 million prizes.
No, so, that's a nice prize.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about specs, what makes up an FPV drone, as we said, and some costs involved as well. So, Jesmond or Nils, I'm going to ask this. So, I meet a lot of people which basically say or ask me, my son is interested in a drone, I want to buy a drone. This is not it, right?
This is not it, definitely. We have a lot of experience and flying time behind us. What I should suggest for the kids would be a smaller one, ready to go, a cheap one that you can fly, throw, bounce, brake.
Just to give an example, Niels, one which we have tested and you're seeing some footage of here is the SEMA X5, which goes on eBay is 35 euros. It's basically indestructible, what I found so far with the kids. It's basically a good bet to get into the hobby without spending a lot of money and before you upgrade to something which can be potentially dangerous as well.
I totally agree with you, James. It's a very good idea. First, to learn how to pilot the drones, because this is manual. We don't have any assistance on it. And it's a very good idea. We will break and you will break a lot of parts. So better to start off with a small one and that's it.
So let's start from here, Nils. Okay. Let's give an overview. If I want to start in this hobby, Jesmond, maybe I can direct this to you since you're Maltese, you're more used to the Maltese market. No offense to you foreigners, Jifiri. So how much would something which is, first of all, is there something ready-made which I can buy off the shelf?
These come ready-made or pre-assembled, basically.
Okay.
You can buy them as a kit also.
What are we seeing here?
We call it a kit combo.
So this is a vortex. This
Uh-huh.
is
It's
one
a
of
vortex.
the first, yes, immersion RC vortex. It was one of the first racing quadcopters ready to fly.
So that's ready to fly.
Yes, that's ready to
Okay.
fly.
This one comes as a package ready to fly, but all you have to add to it is a receiver and the radio.
Yes.
That's
but-
it, basically.
okay. So ready to fly without the radio equipment. So, if I had to ask you an entry level racing drone, how much would it set me back? I mean, give me a ballpark figure.
Entry level will be something like this.
Which is what is that called?
This is as a TMR.
As a tamar.
Let's say you have the speed controllers and the motors
Uh huh.
and the flight controller.
Uh-huh.
Here we see CC3D, we
Uh-huh.
call it this one.
Because we didn't mention it till now. FPV drone racing. The keyword is in the FPV, right? What does it mean?
So FPV stands for first person view. The whole idea behind the first person view is that we control the drone, but we also see what the drone sees through the camera here. And we have special equipment like goggles,
Uh huh.
like this, or we can use also a screen.
Uh-huh.
And it's as if we were a little alien.
It's like you're a
Standing-
minute pilot
That's it, and controlling the drone.
and going extremely fast, obviously,
Going very fast, yes.
and very close to the ground, from what I'm seeing.
Sometimes too close.
Sometimes too close to the ground. So, what are we talking about, money-wise?
So money,
Money-wise, if this one is pre-assembled sort of, or you buy it as a kit,
Uh huh.
a kit combo we call it. I mean, they give you
The frame?
the frame, the seats and the motor, the speed controller also, and the camera. Usually they come around 250 euros
Okay,
kit
so
like that.
without the radio equipment.
without the radio equipment.
So, we're talking about around 250 euros to 280 euros without the radio equipment.
exactly.
Obviously, the radio equipment will add to your cost because high-level transmitters, as the ones that we're seeing right now, obviously they cost you around the 300 mark as well. So, but if you're into the sport, the transmitter, you buy it once, right?
And you keep
And
it
then
forever.
you keep it forever, basically. So that's one item which we suggest, obviously, that you don't be a miser and basically you put money where you need to, because a transmitter will be yours. We have robots here on TechNation, which you have seen, which are running on transmitters, which I have owned for 15 plus years now. And I just keep using the same one over and over again. So, while you're watching this beautiful footage from the ZMR, we're actually going to put it together, starting with the flight electronics, putting together the batteries, so you can have an idea of what actually is the anatomy of an FPV drone racer. So Nils, basically now Jesmond is going to assemble an FPV racing drone.
Yes.
Nils, obviously for me all of this or most of this is Chinese, so please guide us about what's happening.
I will
First,
definitely
before
try.
we actually start, but Nils, I want to focus on the tools. Do you actually need special tools? Because what I'm seeing here is part of an electronics kit, basically.
You have to have some specialized stuff like this one. This is a hex screwdriver. So these are not very common, but yes, of course, after you have the set of pliers, screwdrivers. Yes.
And any self-respecting geek will have most of these tools.
We'll have most of these tools. A good tool also is to have a soldering iron, preferably one that you can control the temperature with. This is a good idea to have.
Do you need, but if you're starting in this hobby, do you need to have soldering skills?
It's better to have a minimum of soldering skills, but you can totally learn on the go.
Okay. So Nils, guide us through what's happening and just please go ahead and start assembling.
So what we have here is the ZMR frame. So it's the most important part of the quadcopter. It needs to be tough. So 4 legs, the plate here. We have 5 computers on board. So we have the main one that Jesmond is assembling right now. It's the flight controller. This flight controllers, it handles all the flight characteristics and the flight system. And it will talk to these guys here, those electronic speed controllers, which are also computers. And those guide the motors exactly to guide the cuts.
No, continue. All right, don't worry. Continue. So basically, does the flight controller, is that the radio receiver, or is the radio receiver is something separate?
No, we have the radio receiver that plugs into the flight controller. So
Okay.
here is the
That's the receiver.
receiver.
All right. So obviously it commands the electronic speed controllers,
Yes.
because obviously, as we know, a quadcopter can change its attitude and pitch and so forth and so on by varying the amount of speed in the different propellers, right?
Yes, exactly. So you have to understand. So it's like an helicopter, but we have 4 propellers. It
Mhm.
moves in 3 axes. We have this axis, the pitch axis,
Mm-hmm.
so to go forwards and backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the roll axis to
Mhm.
go left and right.
And then you have the yaw, right?
And then you have the yaw.
Which basically spins on itself.
Yes.
All right. And it does all those movements by varying the speed of each propeller.
Of each and every propeller, very precisely.
So obviously, without knowing anything what I'm talking about, I realize that the most important things are the motors, the electronic speed controllers, and the quality of the flight computer, right?
Of course. Yes.
Okay. So basically, what's happening right now is, Niels, what's happening?
So Jesmond is putting together the quad, so he's finishing. So we already assembled the electronic speed controllers with the motors.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Jesmond is placing the flight controller on the frame. It's a good idea to have the flight controller in the middle of the quadcopter, so that the flight controller can calculate exactly the stability of the quadcopter.
Okay. So there is no assistance like GPS stabilization or anything like that?
So we tend to avoid, we do racing quadcopters, we don't need GPS.
Mhm.
Actually, the GPS is not fast enough in the refresh rates
Mm-hmm.
to provide us with accurate informations. Those
Okay.
drones can go up to 150 kilometers per hour. They go
Mhm.
very fast. And
GPS is basically too slow.
GPS is too slow. It provides us with an
And what is
update
not
half an
too
hour.
slow then? Your thumbs and your eyes?
So yes, that's the beauty of FPV racing. We have to do all the computerish
Okay.
work.
So if you have 4 electronic speed controllers, returning to what Jesmond is doing right now, they all connect to the same flight controller.
Yes, the flight controller is the most powerful computer on board, and it drives the electronic speed controllers around. So Jesmond is right now, he plugged the electronic speed controllers to the flight controller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. And yes,
Okay.
here we go.
So basically now all the speed controllers are connected to the flight controller, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and the flight controller talks to the receiver, talks to the flight controller as well.
Yes.
Okay, so basically the information is coming from the transmitter to the receiver, then the receiver sends the raw data into the flight controller, which is decoded and then translated to the electronic speed controllers.
Yes, and the electronic speed controllers, in their turn, talk to the motors.
Yes. As far as I know, and as I said, I don't know a lot about these, we tend to split the brushless motors into 2 categories, in-runners and out-runners. Is that still valid as an explanation?
Yes, it's a bit old-fashioned, but
That's me, old-fashioned.
no, that's all. We use brushless motors most of the time, at least on this class of quads. And yes, those are outrunners.
Mm-hmm.
Now we tend to go bigger, and we hit some kind of sweet spot with
Uh-huh.
this size. It's called a 250, so it's a 25 centimeter from motor to motor in diagonal.
Uh-huh.
And we hit a good ratio, power to weight ratio.
Okay.
So those motors are good for what we do.
Okay, so what's left?
We have to plug the camera now. This is the camera for us to see with the video transmitter.
Mm-hmm. Because obviously then there's another set of data, which is the video data, right?
Exactly.
So you need the transmitter for the data and the receiver for the data as well.
We have yet again 2
For the
computers.
video.
Yes.
Okay, so
So he's Jesmond finished configuring most of the stuff. So the camera goes in front.
Well, it wouldn't be much use in the back, would it now?
No. Of course.
Well, actually, it won't make that much difference. You just drive it in reverse, right?
So interestingly, the camera, you can angle it because the quadcopter, when it goes forwards, it angles itself. So unless you want to see ground, you have to tilt a bit the camera.
Okay.
So that's what we are doing. Yeah, we have another camera here that we can exactly switch the angle easily.
So even the cameras are special for this application.
Not really. It's a funny thing. The quadcopter is mostly generic parts. The camera here is a security camera.
Okay.
And we use them as a convenient chip, and they have a very low latency.
Okay.
And they can even see in the dark, which is
So
interesting
why
for
wouldn't
us.
you go for something like a GoPro Knit?
So right now we have a problem of speed. The drones go too fast.
Okay.
For a signal, like a digital signal from the GoPro, to arrive to our goggles and screens without any lag. So if we translate the speed of the quadcopters to meters per second, the quadcopters go about 30 meters per second, up to 40 meters per second.
Okay.
The lag with the GoPro is maybe half a second. So by the time you receive the video, the tree that was in front of you is already inside your quad.
Your quad becomes an integral part of the tree then.
So we use old analog systems for the transmission right now. So this is why it's mandatory to have very small lag so that we can control the quad.
So the camera is on. And what will be the next step now, Nils?
We would have to plug in the VTX and
The what, sorry?
the VTX, the video transmission.
Okay, the
module.
VTX is a video transmission module.
And we plug it
The antenna.
an antenna.
How strange, the antenna? Is it that shape on purpose? Is it because it's aerodynamic or just for the frequency?
No, it's for the global shape of the spectrum that we emit. This is a mushroom antenna. So I'll be very quick. In fact, all the radio frequency is around the quad.
Okay.
So whatever orientation the quad is in,
Oh, all right.
then it's no matter for the frequency,
Okay.
for the radio.
Okay, so basically now the VTX goes into the which part?
So we need to power the VTX. So one of the most important part of the quadcopter is the distribution board. So we have the battery, which is here. We plug the battery to the quad, and then the power distribution board knows what to do and distributes power all around.
Okay, so basically the power distribution board has different voltages for all the different parts.
Yes, that's the tricky part. Always has been for us.
Well, in robotics it's the same thing. With managing power, it's always the one of the biggest problems.
Adjustment has finished. We should just try first to plug the battery.
Yes, always a good idea with everything. Always test it before you close everything up. Without the props. Oh, lots of blinky lights.
This is the magical tune that we all hear.
Okay.
So no smoke, everything seems good.
Okay.
The flight controller initialized,
Mm-hmm.
everything seems good. Now we are on to test every component, the video, and we will program the flight controller.
Okay. Okay, so basically here we're seeing a feed of Keith right now. Hello, Keith. And our little assistant. Hello. So basically now we confirmed that the video is running. I mean, it's working. The data is being transmitted, is being received. So we're good to go. The only thing that's left to test is the actual transmitter, right?
The transmitter, and we need to adjust the programming of the flight controller.
So Nils, now that we had a successful test, thank you Just One for putting it together. Guys, I heard you a couple of times during your explanation saying that you need now to program the drone, so I have to be a programmer as well.
No, you don't need to be a programmer, of course. What we meant by this is configuring the quadcopter We have different options.
Mhm.
We have flight software that we use that are
Mhm.
open source. I can name a few like Clean Flight, Beta Flight.
As usual, every software package that we mention or every item that we mention, you can find more information in the description box beneath the video. So basically, you use it to configure the flight dynamics, how the
Flight
drone will
dynamics,
fly,
yes.
how agile it is or slow it is. So, but you have to start from scratch, or you have NIS. You start from scratch, or there are pre-made ones.
You have pre-made and preset settings, and you can start with them.
So there are like beginner settings, or
Oh yes, you have beginner, intermediate, advanced,
okay.
professional.
So obviously, with this kind of equipment, it's very dangerous to everyone around. If you're just starting, please do the settings and that reflect your skill and your ability, because if something goes wrong, these quads can do a lot of damage. So, guys, thank you for this overview. As I said, this will be a 4-part series where now this was a general overview, and now we're going to have different sections focusing directly on certain equipment. The first section will be on battery, motor, and propeller combos. The second section will be on transmitters, and the third section and the final one will be on frames and putting everything together. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.